In the Block series, Isagi is supposed to be someone who's going to be able to lead Japan to a win in the U20 World Cup, and today I wanted to go over something that I call the Isagi effect. Basically, the Isagi effect is something that happens very consistently in the manga, where an Isagi kind of takes someone's abilities and brings them to the next level, whether it's directly or indirectly. But what people don't usually see is that Isagi is the reason for most of the characters or main characters' development in the series. The first one I'd like to go over is the one in the final match of the first selection in the block facility versus Nagi. Now before this match, Nagi is portrayed as severely lazy, but he's also portrayed as very talented. Starting off this match, Nagi is able to easily catch one of Ryo's insane passes and kick it into the goal pretty easily. He even says that the goal was a piece of cake and they shouldn't have been able to miss something like that. The game restarts and Kunigami ends up getting the ball stolen from him by Ryo, who then quickly passes it over to Nagi, who's wide open basically. Nagi traps the ball again and throws it back up in the air and does a bicycle kick right into the goal, scoring for his team a 2-0 lead. After this, Isagi questions if he can even beat this team, and Team Z just starts fighting amongst themselves because of how badly they're losing. Even someone like Jigiri, who's supposed to have divine speed in the block facility, is able to be matched by Zantetsu, who quickly steals the ball from him and passes the ball right up to Ryo. Zantetsu then gets the ball right back and does an amazing shot from outside the box, scoring a 3-0 lead for his team. This is the moment where Isagi realizes that they don't really stand a chance against Team V, and no one on Team Z believed that they could keep fighting, except for Bachira. Instead of accepting loss like everyone else, Bachira says that this is starting to get fun, and asks Isagi if he's scared. Bachira then goes on to say that they can't even stop him even with the perfect defense, and their goals were just super special. And all that means is that Team Z just has to become super special as well. The game begins again, and Bachira asks for a pass from Isagi, to which Isagi obliges and passes it right to Bachira. Bachira then says the monster inside of him is saying, "When things look dire, don't get scared, get excited." Bachira is faced with Ryo on defense and says he's going to break past Ryo, and uses high-speed scissors to get past Ryo and blows past his defense, but is quickly met with Zantetsu. He gets past Zantetsu with a bunch of trap feints and a mid-air elastico, and is faced with two more defenders who he quickly breaks past because we don't even know their names. Now Bachira is one-on-one with the goalie and says that this is going to be his last game in soccer, then feeling hopeless can wait until after he loses, and scores an amazing goal. This goal really heats up the field and gives Team Z confidence back to get back into their right mindsets. Everyone on Team Z is thinking that they need to make plays that surpass their own limits if they want to beat this amazingly talented Team V. Later on in this match, multiple people on Team Z are able to surpass their own limits, such as Kunigami and even Chigiri, which ends up in them tying up the game 3-3. The tied game begins once again, and Ryo starts to realize that currently Team Z has the perfect control over the field, and he thinks that him and Nagi are actually going to lose. At that exact moment, Nagi begins to move on his own for the first time in his entire soccer career, and says that he'll take care of it. Nagi gets the ball and quickly runs up the field, destroying multiple defenders such as Igaguri. He then passes the ball to Zantetsu and tells him to lob the ball right in front of the goal. Zantetsu does just that, and this is the first pass that Nagi's ever gotten that tested his skill, giving him the first time in his career curiosity that would lead to an awakening, scoring an amazing goal for his team. For the first point in his life, Isagi had felt interest and excitement from soccer, and more importantly, curiosity. After this, Kunigami and Team Z are able to tie the game up 4-4, and Isagi realizes his true self in soccer. Being able to use an ability such as spatial awareness allows him to create goals for his teammates. But with these eyes and this brain, he vows to see into the future and use this power to make his own goals. At this moment, we see Team Z's trader Kuon having a flashback and trying to decide whether or not he should get himself into the game. And even though he will be the only one to advance in Team Z if they lose, he finds himself getting conflicted after their amazing plays and their showings of their convictions. We cut back to the game where Isagi is facing against Nagi, and Nagi's able to take the ball with the trap and go past Isagi. After that, Nagi's faced with the one-on-one with the goalie, to which Isagi notes that he would absolutely destroy anything that was in his path. But Kuon quickly comes out of nowhere to get a foul on Nagi, throwing Kuon out of the game. Even knowing that he would advance even if Team Z lost didn't stop him from helping them to go to win, because he believes that Team Z can keep fighting, and this further reinforces Team Z's conviction, with Isagi saying that there's no way they'll let it end here. After multiple failed goal attempts from Team V, Team Z gets the ball back and begins breaking through Team V's defense. all of them working in perfect sync due to Isagi's amazing analytical abilities. They all get close to the goal, and it seems that the final score is pretty imminent, but Nagi comes out of nowhere, destroying any side of victory in Isagi's mind. Nagi then says that Isagi is the most dangerous one on the field right now, and all Isagi's focused on is getting to the ball before Nagi does. But he can't even see a future where he's gonna win. In that moment, he's able to evolve himself, and remembers that his true skill is direct shots. So instead of trapping the ball like he was planning to, he instead went for an amazing direct shot that wins the game for Team Z. In this game, Isagi was not only able to evolve himself, but he was also able to change the ways of thinking of people like Kuon, who was someone who became a trader just for his dreams of becoming a #1 striker. He was also able to evolve the lazy talent Nagi Seishiro, who before this match had absolutely no interest in soccer and only played it because Ryo told him to, giving Nagi his first taste of curiosity. And of course, last but not least, he was also able to allow almost the entire team of Team Z to evolve themselves and play a very contentious match with Team V, allowing them to advance to the next selection. Later on in the next selection, everyone who passes is instructed to pick teams of 3, and of course Isagi was going to pair with Botcher and someone else, but he's encountered by Nagi and Ryo, to which Nagi asks him to play with his team. Isagi of course denies this and says that he wants to team up with Botcher, and Nagi says that he'll join their team instead of playing with Ryo. This obviously confuses Ryo since they both started their soccer career together and made a pact that they would become the best in the world. Since they lost, Nagi wanted to try making an effort with Isagi, since Isagi was the one who was able to advance him to another state, and allow him to feel frustration for the first time. Isagi of course accepts Nagi because he saw his talent in the last game, and leaves Ryo behind. Moving on to a little later, Isagi and Rin's teams both have to face each other in the 3v3 rivalry battle, and of course Rin's team wins because he has more skill. Due to this win, their team is able to pick one person from Isagi's team to steal and move on to the 4v4 battles with, and they choose Meguru Bachira. Bachira of course decides to follow the monster inside of him, and says that he won't wait for Isagi just because he's leaving him behind, and tells Isagi that if he wants him, then steal him back, leaving Nagi and Isagi behind. In the 2v2 rivalry battle section, Nagi and Isagi are able to defeat the team of Baro and Naruhaya, and steal Baro, leaving Naruhaya disqualified. Isagi, Nagi, and Baro then advance to the 3v3 team selection and have to face off against Ryo, Kunigami, and Shigiri. In this match, because of Baro's insane ego, Isagi is not able to contain him, and this leads to them losing multiple goals and not being able to get a chemical reaction with each other. But because of Nagi's presence, Isagi is able to see multiple ways of getting goals, and he's able to get multiple chemical reaction goals with Nagi. But even with this, he's only barely even with the other team, and he says that he needs to find a way to utilize Baro. Isagi goes on to ask Baro nicely if he wants to play with him and Nagi because they'll all be stronger then and they want to make a chemical reaction. But Baro tells him once again that he wants to win with his own goals and he'd rather die than assist someone like him. Isagi basically goes on to say that he's squashing his own potential and he's not fully utilizing himself yet, and it's going to lead to him disappearing in the block facility. This makes Baro very angry, and he says that he has all the ability, so he should be able to win with his own goals, and that's pretty obvious. Things like chemical reactions or having leverage with his team isn't the type of soccer that he wants to play. With both Isagi and Nagi being egoists, they're creatures who can only live the way they want to, and due to that reason, Isagi cannot control Baro. But Isagi is not willing to give up on him because he feels like it would be such a waste of his talent. The game restarts and Kunigami is able to make a goal on the team, putting them in the lead 3-1. Isagi says that in contrast to the other team's balance of their triple fusion, Isagi and Nagi have lost an arm due to Baro not wanting to help, and they don't really stand a chance in this situation. So instead of trying to leverage Baro like he was before, he says that he'll devour Baro and rule the battlefield. The game restarts and Isagi has the ball, and the opposing team are being very cautious of Nagi since they're able to play make so amazingly. So instead of choosing Nagi, Isagi says he'll choose Baro, leading Baro to craving a pass from Isagi, and leading the other team to get drawn in by Baro's charge. But instead of aiming for Baro, he aims for the prodigy Nagi, using Baro as bait. He then goes into everyone's blind spot, even Baro's, and slips through the darkness to accept a pass from Nagi, who used Baro for a bait once again. Isagi then says that if there is no light to guide him to a goal, he'll just have to become that light himself and adapt to Baro, taking the darkness that he generated on the field and devouring it, changing it into light, scoring a game-changing goal. After this goal, he then goes to Baro and tells him to just keep playing like he was and don't hold him back, and then calls Baro a loser. Baro, being an egoist, is obviously angered at the fact that he used him and says that he alone is the king of the field. The game continues with Baro getting more and more angered, and we soon see a flashback of Baro, where we see that he's always been the field's leading actor due to all of his talent. So due to this talent, Baro decided that he was the king of the field. He gave up trying to understand others and threw himself into pursuit of his own type of play. After that, he realized that the reason he liked soccer so much isn't because of feeling like a king, but it's that he enjoyed the feeling of taking the players who gave everything for the game to use them for his own goals and drag them off of the stage. The game begins once again, and Baro tries to go for a goal right off the kickoff, but it's obviously blocked by the goalie. Everyone goes for the rebound and Kunigami gets it and tries to pass it to Reo, which is intercepted by Isagi. But Chigiri is able to slide tackle the ball and get it out of Isagi's reach and put it right in reach of Baro. Baro was very close to his shooting range at this point, but the speed demon Chigiri was right on his back. Because of Chigiri's speed, Baro would always be one step behind and wouldn't be able to reach his preferred shot course. But the one leading the field in this moment, Isagi Yoichi, was wide open in front of both of them. Isagi's sheer presence in this moment was enough to force Baro to pass it to him and submit to his plays, leaving the lead actor of the field, Isagi, to score an amazing game-tying goal and defeating the King Baro. This defeat completely crushes Baro's ego and makes him think that everything that he's done to others up until now is coming back to him, and he isn't really a king. After this, Baro's faced with the situation where both Nagi and Isagi are wide open for a pass, and he thinks of entrusting a goal to them and them alone, almost submitting to a chemical reaction. But just at that moment, all of Baro's despair wraps around him and makes him completely freeze in the middle of the field. At that moment, he sees a future where Isagi is the lead actor and is playing professional games, and he's someone who's just sitting in his room watching these games while drinking beer. This isn't a future that Baro wants, and leads him to a forced awakening. He begins blowing through their defenses with a bunch of combo chops, and he says that because he learned defeat, he can see a dark path that exists to his own goals. Using Isagi as a wall to hide in, he blends into the light that Isagi has created and devours him. Both him and Isagi create synergy by devouring each other and creating their own chemical reactions. And if Nagi and Isagi are both heroes, then Baro does not mind becoming a villain who devours both of them. Scoring his amazing awakening goal, the true king awakens once again, Shohei Baro. After this match, they of course steal Chigiri due to his amazing speed, and they move on to the 4v4 rival battle. In this 4v4 rival battle, Isagi challenges Rin's team to try and take back Bachira. The match begins and Isagi is faced with Bachira, who uses max speed scissoring to get past Isagi. But Isagi is able to quickly stay on him, and Bachira is able to notice that he's able to position himself while viewing the entire field, showing them that both of them have evolved after their time apart. Later on in this match, after facing Rin multiple times, they're able to realize that him and Isagi's spatial awareness aren't that far apart, but Rin's is one step ahead. So Nagi decides that he wants to be the missing piece for Isagi to fit in the puzzle of defeating the #1 striker in the Bluff facility right now. Isagi, after accepting a pass from Nagi, is able to rewrite his own brain in an instant to see the field's future and help him score a goal. He passes it back to Nagi, who got right behind Rin, and is able to do a 2-stage feint volley to surpass Rin at that moment and score a goal. And Rin after this says that he's annoyingly fired up. In that moment, Nagi and Isagi were able to stand a chance and actually defeat Rin for the very first time in the match. But this match is far from over. The match keeps progressing, and Rin and Isagi are able to evolve at nearly the same pace and read each other at crazy high levels. This makes Bachira insanely happy, and he says that he wants to play soccer with both of these monsters, but at that moment they both completely blow past Bachira, leaving him behind. At that moment, Bachira thought that he wasn't alone anymore, but he didn't realize that he was left behind, and he's not in both of these geniuses' world yet. This leads Bachira to questioning himself and having to find his own ego. He realizes that he doesn't really have any reason to play soccer at the moment, and with weak resolve like that, he'll never be able to catch up with Rin and Isagi. Moving on to game point, the game is tied 4-4, and this is Bachira's last moment to try and evolve himself to get into the world of both of these geniuses. Bachira is able to get the ball after a pass from Aryu, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He thinks of multiple things like cutting through with his dribbling or passing, and then he has to ask his monster what he should do. Due to this confliction in his mind, he's able to get slide tackled by Chigiri, getting the ball back to white team's clutches. Because it feels like the end since there was a counterplay enacted, Bachira forces himself to a moment of awakening and says that he'll win even if it kills him. He says that everything he's found since coming to Blue Lock, such as being near Isagi and playing soccer together, would have been enough for him, and he doesn't want to lose the first friend that he's actually had, and having to go back to when he was alone. Then Bachira realizes that he's really afraid of being alone and doesn't want to play soccer by himself, and he started playing soccer so someone would want him, and he's been living to hear someone else's voice instead of his own. At that moment, he then decides to listen to his own voice, which tells him that he'll win if it kills him and take back Isagi. He's able to get a rebound from Rin and quickly goes on to fight the offense. At that moment, Bachira's monster decides to emerge, but Bachira doesn't want this since he'll just end up searching for the monster. And the monster was enough when he was alone, since he didn't have anyone else to play with, but he doesn't need the monster anymore because he's always been by his side, but he can go farther without it. The monster after childhood quickly became a curse for Bachira and imprisoned him in his own imagination. But after playing with Isagi, Isagi became his sole reason for existing and became someone he couldn't play soccer without. In attempts to break this curse, Bachira breaks through Isagi's defenses and goes past him. And at that moment, Isagi says that something is completely different about Bachira. Bachira keeps on going to nutmeg both Chigiri and Baro and uses this awakening to break his own curse. At that moment, Bachira is someone who no one on the field can read, and he's trapped in by Chigiri, Baro, and Nagi, and has an open pass course to Rin, but decides not to pass it, but instead to get past all of these defenders. He begins playing on his own impulse and immersing himself into the game of soccer. Bachira is able to destroy these defenders and says that even if it's lonely, he's going to keep dancing forward. Stepping on his monster at that moment, he says goodbye to Isagi and takes the shot, and with this impulse, it's going to set him free. But Isagi blocks the shot, and it reveals that due to believing in Bachira, he knew that he would go there all by himself. In that moment, Isagi was able to surpass Rinitoshi for the first time, all on his own. But due to cruel luck, the ball went back into Rin's clutches and allowed him to score the game-winning goal. After the match, Bachira says that he fought all alone and believed that he didn't need anyone else. But Isagi crawled into his lonely world, and he realizes that he can't live without Isagi now. Now, even though I've only went into 3 times the Isagi effect have been in the series, there are way more times, so if you want me to do a part 2, just let me know in the comments below. And also check out some of my other videos. With this ability to force evolutions upon players, I do believe that this will lead Isagi and Blue Lock to winning the U20 World Cup. But that's all I have for today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. And also comment some topics you'd like me to go over down in the comments below. Goodbye.